All right, we are now looking at 8C.1. And 8C is all about solving rational equations. So before we were simplifying expressions, expressions don't have an equal sign in them. Equations do have an equal sign in them. So we'll get our final answer as x equals something. Okay? So 8C.1 is I can solve rational equations by getting a common denominator to set the numerators equal. Okay? So one piece of vocabulary, extraneous solutions. So what are extraneous solutions? They are solutions to a simplified form of an equation that do not satisfy the original equation. Okay, so when we do our work, right, we might we simplify things, we cross things out in the numerator and denominator, we get rid of the denominator altogether in these ones. So we're doing a lot of manipulating to the equation. So when we get our answer, really all we have to do is plug it back in to see if it still works with the original question, because it might not. Okay, so we'll see some examples of that in our work here. Okay. So let's look at our first example. X over 4 equals 9 over 4x. These problems start much the same way as our adding and subtracting. Okay, we have to get a common denominator. So, or one of our least common denominators. So we have x over 4, 9. Okay. Okay, equals 9 over, this is really 4 times x. So what is our least common denominator? I need a 4 from here. Now, starting over, I already have a 4. I need an x. Okay. So our least common denominator is 4 times x. So this one has a 4. It's missing its x. This one has a 4. It has an x. Okay. So we get x squared over 4x equals 9 over 4x. Once we get that, once we have the same denominator, in order for these two things to be equal, the only way they're going to be equal is if since they have the same denominator, is they have to now have the same numerator. Now, when we're solving, list some rules. If there's no x squared, it's just your basic. Okay, like x plus 3 equals 0. You subtract 3, you solve for x. Okay, very basic solving. If there is an x squared, you have to set equal to 0 and factor. For some cases, there might be a faster way to do it, but these are your two basic rules, and if you follow these two, right, this or this, it will work every time. Okay? So, this one has an x squared. So I'm going to set it equal to 0 and factor. So I'm going to subtract 9. When I have that, we then have x plus 3, x minus 3. Okay. So now I have x plus 3 equals 0. So x equals negative 3. X minus 3 equals 0. So x equals 3. To check my work, I'm going to plug my answer back in. So I'm going to do 3 over 4, I'm trying with this one, has to equal 9 over 4 times 3. For checking your answer, don't worry about trying to like do it in your head or anything. Just stick pretty much the whole thing, the left side and then the right side in your calculator. So I'm going to do, sorry, I had to type that in here. 3 divided by 4 is 3/4. Nine divided by, and be careful with this divided by, anything you're multiplying in a denominator should be in parentheses. 4 times 3 equals 3/4. Oh, I keep typing it in the wrong place. Check. I'm going to do the same thing with our -3. -3 over 4. And I'm going to type in my calculator for the sake of time. -3/4 equals -3/4. Okay, so again, this check is just done in my calculator, but and you'll see later on as we get to ones that have extraneous solutions, the check is very important. Okay. All right, let's look at our second one. I don't have to do any factoring, so I'm just going to start by finding my LCD. This one has a denominator of x plus 5. This one has a denominator of x plus 2. The 0, it technically has a denominator of 1, but if I'm multiplying things by 0, it doesn't really matter what we do with zeros. So, checking our work, we have an x plus 5 here, so we're missing that x plus 2. Here we have an x plus 2, so we're missing that x plus 5. Again, I'm not really going to worry about the 0. Anything I multiply by 0 is still going to be 0. So I'm going to FOIL this. I have x squared minus 3x plus 2x minus 6 over. Don't have to worry about your denominator. We're just getting rid of it anyway. Minus, same thing here, x squared plus 5x over, same thing, x plus 2, x plus 5. Okay, the one thing I'm going to do is I'm going to change my signs, right? This is a subtraction problem. So I want to change my signs almost as soon as I can. Then, I now have the same denominator. So our main concern is getting rid of our denominator, because that makes it a lot easier. Now that I've gotten rid of my denominator, I'm going to start combining my like terms, seeing what adds, seeing what I can do. So here, it's nice, I have x squared here, and an x minus x squared here. Well, that's 0, so those go away. I have a negative 3x, a positive 2x, and a negative 5x. Negative 3 plus 2 is negative 1, minus 5 is negative 6. And then I have a minus 6. So now I'm asking myself, is this no x squared or does it have an x squared? No x squared. So it's just basic factoring, or basic solving. I'm getting x by itself. Now again, I need to plug this answer back into my original problem. I'm going to do -1 minus 3 over -1 plus 5 minus -1 over -1 plus 2 should equal 0. If you type this whole thing in your calculator, you do get 0 equals 0. So that checks out. Alright, let's look at letter C. We have 9 over 3x plus 1 over 6 equals 4 over 3x. So we start by, I'm going to rewrite it a little bit. We have 9 over 3 times x over 3 times 2 equals 4 over 3 times x. So getting our least common denominator, I have a 3 and an x. I've already used 3, I need a 2. I've already used 3, I've already used x. So this one has a 3 and an x. It's missing a 2. This one has a 3 and a 2. It's missing an x. This one again has a 3 and an x, so it's missing that 2. So this part is the same as what we did with adding and subtracting. 2 times 9 is 18. 2 times 3 times x is 6x, or we could leave it. X times 1 is x. 4 times 2 is 8. Ooh, all these go away. So we have 18 plus x equals 8. So again, this is just a single x. There's no quadratic. There's no squared. So basic solving. If I plug it back in, I get 9 over 3 times -10 plus 1, 6 should equal 4 over 3 times -10. And we get -4 over 30 does equal -4 over 30. Check. Okay. One thing I want to make you aware of is this check is really is not your answer, right? X equals -10 is my answer. This is just making sure the answer works. Okay. All right, looking at D, I have 4 over x plus 1 plus 2x plus 2 over x. I'm going to start by rewriting this as 4 over x plus 1 over 1. So if it doesn't have a denominator, there's really a 1 there. LCD, x. We don't have to worry about 1. You can throw it in, but anything times 1 is itself, so we don't really worry about it. And then this one already has an x. X that matches, this one needs an x. X that matches. So we now have 4 over x plus x over x. Okay, unless you see this and like, oh, I can cross out my x's. But that would just take you back to what we already had. So don't work backwards, right? The whole reason we did this was so that we could get rid of our denominators. So now we have 4 plus x equals 2x plus 2. Now, there's no quadratic here, so this is really just basic solving. The issue with this one is I have an x on both sides, so I need to get rid of one of them. So I'm just going to get rid of this 2x by subtracting it. So I have 4x minus 2x is minus 1x. These went away, equals 2. Now I'm just getting x by itself, so I'm going to subtract 4. Negative 1x equals 2 minus 4 is negative 2. Divide. our check, 4 over 2 plus 1 should equal 2 times 2 plus 2 over 2. That should be 3. That's 3. Check. Okay. All right, go ahead, turn to the next page. We're going to do one more problem. And the last one we'll do tomorrow in class so that we have another example. But we're looking at E, 4 over k squared minus 8x plus 1. That's not right. I think I'm missing a number. I think that's supposed to be 12. It is. Sorry about that. I don't know what happened there. That should be 12. Number got erased somehow. Okay. So the first thing we have to do is factor if we can. So that's k multiplies to 12, adds to -8. -6 and -2 are your numbers that multiply to 12 but add to -8. So our LCD, right, this one has a k minus 6 and a k minus 2. Starting over, already have a k minus 2, already have a k minus 6, so we don't need anything else. We have a k minus 6 and a k minus 2, we have both of those. This one has a k minus 2, so it's missing your k minus 6. This one has a k minus 6, so it's missing the k minus 2. So let's do some multiplying. We didn't change this one at all, so it's just still 4 over k minus 6 times k minus 2. Here we have to distribute this k, so that's k squared minus 6k. Here, just keep it as k minus 6, k minus 2. Distribute hard, that's k minus 2, k minus 6, k minus 2. Okay, our denominators are all the same. So we have 4 equals k squared minus 6k plus k plus 2. I'm going to simplify anything I can. -6k plus 1k is -5k. Now, this one has a quadratic, so we have to set it equal to 0. So I'm going to subtract 4. So 0 equals k squared minus 5k minus 6. I just wrote kk instead of 5k. K squared minus 5k minus 6. So 0 equals, I believe that's k minus 6. Why can't I distinguish between k's and 5's? K minus 6, k plus 1. So 0 equals k minus 6. 0 equals k plus 1. So k equals 6. K equals -1. Alright, last thing we have to do is check our answers. I'm just going to scroll it up. So our first one is going to be 4 over k squared 6 squared minus 8 times 6 plus 12 should equal 6 over 6 minus 2 plus 1 over 6 minus 6. when you type in the first side, I'm going to do this one real quick. We have 4 divided by, I'm going to put this whole thing in parentheses. And then I'll put 6 squared minus 8 times 6 plus 12. Alright, and that looks the most like that. And we get undefined. Okay? If you ever get undefined, it means your answer does not work. Okay? We can't have undefined. Okay, so let's go back to that definition where it doesn't satisfy the original, right? We can't divide by 0. I think it's easy to see here when we do 6 minus 6 that we're going to be dividing something by 0. Now we want to try for our -1, so 4 over -1 squared minus 8 times -1. So this one does not work. Plus 12 equals -1 over -1 minus 2 plus 1 over -1 minus 6. If we type this in, we have 4 divided by, in parentheses again, -1 squared minus 8 times -1 plus 12. We get 4 over 21. Same thing here. We have -1 divided by 1 minus 2 plus 1 divided by -1 minus 6. And I get 4 over 21. Those are equal. This is our answer. All right. I know this is already long, so we'll do the next question in class. So you have one more example. Otherwise, have a good rest of your day.